Students are also here, and so you could see a little energy in the kirtan today. Do you know the best students of our class? Should I say the name? Oh, she has that different smile, which means no. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Namo
Anybody remembers what we discussed last time? Just for the benefit of everybody else. We discussed about the qualifications of a guru, right? Why guru is important. And we described what are the qualifications of a guru. Sometimes we have a perception about guru. Somebody who's wearing saffron, dhoti, kurta, something like that, and wearing some malas and this and that. But that's not how guru is qualified, right? Seemaji, I think you beautifully put it last time. I remember that, and I was actually reflecting on that for quite some time actually. That there are fake gurus also, and fake means, last time we gave that example. Bachpan mein, we had these notes, currency notes, fake notes. Kids play with that. Not today's kids. We play with that. Maybe you also. So, which means if I have something fake, which means there has to be a real copy of it, right? You see that original copy, bring originals, documents. I don't know, Singapore happens, India, they do ask you. Right? You have to bring the originals. So when there is fake, which means that there is original as well. Right? And that's what we need to figure out. Of course, then we describe the qualifications of Guru, that he always talks about God, Krishna. He doesn't give his own whimsical opinions. I think maybe it's like that. No. He goes by what is spoken in the Shastras. He speaks the truth. Some people may like it, some may not like it. But he does not deviate. He's not there to entertain people's mind and, or tell them, you do whatever you want to do. Was that in Bengali saying, Joter Mat? Was it? Whatever, Path, something like that. Yes, the third part. So, whatever you choose, that's all right. No, that's not Shastra. Guru never says like that. Will a mother say like that? Mother is the first guru of a child, right? For example. So, and that's why Krishna, dear Arjun, in that famous verse we described last time, which we read together, was the 7th verse. And in that verse, it said, we can repeat it again because it's a very important verse. This is actually the turning point in Bhagavad Gita, it's 2.7. Please remember that. That's where Arjuna is has given all those excuses to Krishna. Why not to fight? What should I do? Plan A, plan B, plan C, And Krishna asked him, if you don't want to fight, what will you do? He says, I'll go and do some bhiksha. And Krishna says, okay, if somebody doesn't give you bhiksha, then what? You will take out the sword and chop him off because you're Kshatriya. Because that's how he is, like administrators. When they ask, you have to give, right? So this becomes a very important verse. And we'll try to catch the flow also. We'll go a little back and then read it together. Karpanya dosho pahata svabhavaha Prachami tvam dharma sammuda chetaha Yaksheya shanne nishitam bruhitan me Shishyasteham sadimam tvam prapannam Can anybody would like to read the translation?
Now I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of miserly weakness. In this condition, I am asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and so surrendered unto you. Please instruct me.
That's a beautiful point. He's saying, now I am your disciple. Shishyasteham. Shishyas. So So where is this Shishya, Shastra, Shasan? The root in Sanskrit is Shas. Shas means to rule, right? Shastra say, what happens when you have Shastra? You rule, right? So actually Shishya also, Shiksha, Shishya. The root is to rule, to kind of, to show or to teach, basically. So Shishya means that one who has to be taught. So which means not whatever you say today, whatever you want to do, you do. It's again the same thing, but they need to be taught. So that's where it's very important. Arjuna is trying to tell Krishna that it's getting too much for me to handle. And he was highly qualified. It's not that he wasn't qualified. Right? This is a beautiful story. I like it. We actually used to make dramas of this story. So, because we are in Singapore, so we'll take an example from Singapore. So this is one person who's very highly qualified, got an admission in US, and he passed, went back to his village, he had a big paying job in Google or whatever, Apple. He went back home in his village. So there was this boatman, so he got into the boat. He had to go to the other side of the boat, of the river. So while discussing, so he asked this boatman, do you know about NUS? Singapore? He said, no. He said, 25% of your life is waste. You don't know NUS? He said, it must be something, some temple or something. So I said, university, people study AI, technology, this, that. Wow, whoa, that's nice. And then he was doing something on the phone. And he said, what is this? He says, this is called the iPhone. So iPhone, what is that? He said, oh, it can send messages, and even if there is no signal, I can send SOS through satellite, latest one. He had the pro version, it looks like. He said, I don't know what is it. He said 50% of your life is gone. What is this? So, okay. After some time, he was rowing his boat, he was singing glories of Mother Ganga. And while going ahead, he opened his laptop, he was doing something. And he said, what is this? It's called iMac, or whatever Mac, MacBook. He said, I don't know anything like this. He said, 75% of your life. Waste. I felt, okay, yeah, maybe. And while he kept rowing the boat, all of a sudden there was a thunderstorm that came. It started raining like crazy. And what happened? The boat started to shake. Yes, you're right. Wasn't it? You saw that, right? The boat was shaking. And the boatman felt, my God. He asked this guy. He said, do you know how to swim? He said, no. He said, 100% of your life is alcohol. And he jumped off the river in a boat, and of course the boatman escaped. So all these degrees, my dear devotees, my dear friends, all these degrees, all the qualifications will not protect, cannot save us from the dangers of life, cannot protect us from death. However, you tell me one person who graduated from MIT or Stanford and he defeated death. He looked death into the eye, right? And escaped. It's not possible. Alexander the Great conquered every inch of the earth which was known to man that time. Whatever area. But when he got sick, when he was about to even leave his body, he was literally telling them, please, I don't want to die. But even Alexander the Great, death came and death captured him. one who is taken birth is sure to die, actually. And that's what Bhagavad Gita wants to teach us, teach all of us, how to solve the problems, the real problems of life. So Prabhupada here beautifully, I'm going to actually quote from one of his lectures he gave in 1973. It was very beautiful. So I'd like to read it for you actually. I want to paraphrase. He says, this is the lecture in London, 1973. It's on the same verse. It's verse number 7 and 8. Karpanya dosho. Karpanya means miserly and dosho means fault. When one does not act according to his position, it is a fault. That is called miserly. And then he talks about this. Karpanya dosho pahata swabhavaha. Swabhav. So he says, Prabhupada explains beautifully, he says, even if you put a crown on the head of a dog, very beautiful analogy. If you put a crown on the head of a dog and make the dog sit on the throne, then you throw a bone. What will happen? Huh? He will come running, because that's his svabhava. That's his prakriti, right? But that's not for humans. Humans know what is lower class taste and what is high class taste, right? You understanding the point? So Arjun here is saying that actually what he wants to say is that that's why he actually wants to tell Krishna that my svabhava as a Kshatriya is actually to fight, and I'm actually going against my svabhava, against my nature, and that's not correct. That's why he says, I'm confused about it now, please help. So in animal form of life, they go by instinct. For example, again a story, a nice pastime. So there was one sage who was taking a bath in the river, and he saw a scorpion who was drowning. So he was trying to pick the scorpion up and keep it aside to save him. But as soon as you do it, what would scorpion do? Yeah, he wanted to sting. And you know how scorpions sting? From the back, from the tail. So be careful of the scorpions. No, we're not talking of zodiac signs. So there was this washerman, and he kept doing it. So washerman said, my dear sir, my dear Sadhu, what are you doing? So Sadhu gave a beautiful reply. What did he say?
I want to save the scorpion.
Yeah, he said, I want to save the scorpion because that's my nature. I'm a Sadhu, I'm supposed to do that. And he's abiding by his svabhava, a scorpion, is to bite. So why should I leave my nature? So that's about svabhava. And then Prabhupada further explains, when you become diseased, you go to a physician and ask him, what to do, sir? I am now suffering from this disease. That is your duty. So similarly, Prabhupada says, if we are perplexed about our duties, about what to do, how do we solve the problems of life, birth and death, then one must ask spiritual master about, or to some superior person who knows about life and death. Right? Makes sense? Right? And we do it in our day-to-day life. When we are sick, if you have physical ailment, you go to a doctor who does take care of the physical body. If you've got subtle problems, mental issues, then you go to certain, those kind of doctors. So like that, when there's a problem with life and death in terms of the spiritual science, you have to approach a guru. And then Prabhupada says, everybody in this world is perplexed. Everyone is suffering in the material world. But they will not search for a bona fide guru. That is Karpanya dosha. So our duty is actually to figure out a guru. And here Arjuna is coming out as he says himself that that is karpanna dosha. So he is then asking Krishna what? Prachami tvam. So I have approached you, O Krishna. Then he says, then prapanna means that I surrender unto you. Okay. So then in the next verse, of course, Arjuna, if someone would like to read, would like to go ahead. Verse number 8. You can read directly the translation also, that's also fine. Anybody who hasn't read?
I can find no means to drive away this grief which is drying up my senses. I will not be able to dispel it even if I win prosperous. Unrivaled kingdom on earth with sovereignty like the demigods in heaven.
Yeah. You can read the purport also, some few lines of that, it's very important.
Although Arjuna was putting forward so many arguments based on knowledge of principles of religions and moral code, it appears that he was unable to solve his real problem without the help of the spiritual master, Lord Krishna. He could understand that his so-called knowledge was useless in driving away his problems, which were drying up his whole existence, and it was impossible for him to solve such perplexities without the help of a spiritual master like Lord Krishna.
Yes, thank you. So you can see here there's a very important point Arjuna is explaining here. Uchoshnam indriyanam in the second line. He says, I can find no means to drive away this grief which is drying up my senses. What happens when there's a lot of grief in our life? Have you had that moment? When you were really under terrible stress. What happens? The senses don't work properly. It looks like you cannot enjoy, even if you get little enjoyment. There's something which you really like in life, but the senses are too dry to accept that. Have you seen that? Now, if you're really stressed about something, especially like, your kid is not calling, he's not picking up the phone, what happens? You're not able to do anything. Smile. Chori pakdi gayi. Okay? So you're not able to do anything. So this is what happens to Arjuna. So Arjuna is also saying that I'm so under tremendous grief that my senses are not able to. They're drying up. I can't visualize anything. I can't conceptualize anything in life. Right? That's the nature of sorrow in this world. So here again, the beautiful point he says in this purport, if you read, he could understand that his so-called knowledge was useless in driving away his problems, which were drying up his whole existence. It was impossible for him to solve such perplexities without the help of a spiritual master like Lord Krishna. So, Arjuna had everything. He was highly learned. He had a glorious family. Brothers like Yudhishthira, Bhima, right? Such amazing lineage. Yet cousin brother was none other than but Lord Krishna. He was his cousin brother, right? So you have God by the side. You have so much high class lineage, but still, just in that fraction of a moment when he was about to fight, he lost his composure. And life also actually sometimes puts us in such difficulties. How many people in, for example, like the present situation, war, how many people in Ukraine must have actually thought last year that next year they will be homeless? Right? And none of their fault actually, in one way, if you see. Right? So any moment, this world is like that. It's dukkhala ashashvata. There's nothing permanent. If you think this is, sometimes we think, okay, now this is my house, I built this house, this is permanent dwelling, I'm going to live here happily ever after. You've seen those movies, right? You hold the hand, and they lived happily ever after. No. it's not true. We all know that, right? Because we're made to believe that. Made to believe that that's how it is. No, it doesn't work like that. Married life is a life full of responsibilities. It's not just running around the parks and holding hands and singing songs. No. It's a very fraction of a time moment of that whole life, actually. So anything can happen. And it reminds me of what happened, when I was 10-year-old. My father, my grandfather, they had everything. I remember I was taking a walk with my grandfather, and I asked my grandfather, "How much is our land?" He said, "How much far you can see?" And I said, "I can see that tree, Dadu. I mean, that tree I could see even these two fingers like this." I said, "That tree." He said, "It's all ours. It's okay." And we had walnut groves, we had walnuts lying on the ground. Today I really have to shop, special shops, go out, figure out what's the quality. And we had lying down. I would take them to school, to my teachers as just like that, because we had access. The Kashmir apples, I remember I would open a door and one corner would be like this. It's like a mountain of these apples would be just lying down there, and I would just eat. Throw, pick up another one. And today my son does it, he gets a bashing, It costs so much. But what happened in January 4th? I left on January 4th with my dad, just for a vacation. My mother and my brother joined us on 16th of January. That's it. And after that, we lost everything what we had. And when I say everything, means everything. Now you may say, okay, but you must have some bank accounts. Okay, the land is one, at least the money you will have something. So the bank, because many people ask me that question, so I'm kind of saying it myself. I asked my dad, what happened to your bank accounts? You had that money, what happened? When I grew old, I could question. He said, I went to the bank, but they said the terrorists attacked with hand grenades and all, and they burnt all the records. And we had no computers those days, so everything was written by hand. And my dad had that passbook. And I remember, I think he had it for a long, long time. And it had some lakhs of rupees, something. In those days, I'm talking of like 30, 35 years back. He said, this has no value. And we never went back. And then all of a sudden, my whole family, I remember standing on the road with my father, and I asked him, where do we sleep tonight? And I saw this tear coming from his eyes. And my brother standing on the road, different language, Jammu, Delhi, it's like, different language, different people, different weather. We had never seen 40. We had never seen 30 plus in Kashmir. Summer would be pleasant, 25, like that. So within a moment, we were like, we could not even comprehend what happened. That's material world for you. It's as brutal as it can be. And then I saw that, that those struggles of the whole family, and then my father would go around and ask for some work. He was an electronics engineer with no work. And then the government, cleared some jungles, some fields, far off place, and put some tents, like 10,000 tents, and you go and live in those tents. No toilet, no bathroom, nothing, just a tent. And they give you some rice, 2 kg per person, some meat, and 1 kg sugar. I remember that. So we tried living there, and my father looked that the company there was not conducive. And we were not going to school. I didn't go to school in my fifth standard year. I was 5th, my brother was 3rd. So from that background, we come to that level, and then that endless struggle of my father to put us into school. I didn't have any memories of my father because he was always working. Every Sunday, Monday, Saturday, 16 hours, 12 hours, 14 hours, every single day. The point I'm trying to tell you is Of course, me being here is just a miracle of Krishna. That's the sense of humor of Krishna, where he can pick up people from where and keep them there, right? So when I look back, of course, it looks like a miracle, but that's how it is. But because of his, when I saw my father, this is the one lesson I would like to share with all of you. He did not accuse God. He did not accuse Krishna. Why? Why me? You know? Because I saw him, he was gentle, he was honest, he never cheated anyone. Actually, I would ask these questions to him, and he was like, okay. I said, have you cheated anyone? He said, no. But one thing I saw was, despite such troubles, he realized that that's how this world works. Change is permanent. Nothing is permanent here except change. You know? So if there's happiness, which means sorrow is around the corner. If there is sorrow, happiness is around the corner. So that's how the world works. But what is more important is, how do you deal with both of them? Sometimes people teach us, you see these life coaches and talking a lot on how to handle failures, right? They talk so many things, when you are down, negative, being positive, being that. But what is more important also, if you do not know how to handle success, you definitely will not be able to handle failure. The problem is in the first case. Handling failure, I think I can honestly say most of us know how to do that. Ho jata. I can drag myself a little bit, right? But what is important is, how do you deal with success? Because the moment you have success, you want to take credit, of course. You want to tell people, I did it. Then you will be equally responsible for failure as well. And that was one of the lessons I learned from my father, that despite such tough time, he remembered surrender to God. I always saw that. He always bowed down to Krishna. He kept doing what he had to do without accusing. Sometimes it's easy to do that, but he kept doing that, and that was really something which I learned as a child. I saw him going to temples. We'd always celebrate Janmashtami, even if it was that from a big bungalow, we came in that 10 by 12 room, all four of us. Sometimes it would be 6 people, because my grandparents would come, and 6 people in 10 by 12. I actually measured that room one day, and I noted in my diary that we lived in 10 feet by 12 feet room. So, and we lived there for almost a decade or something. But I saw him every day waking up, taking a bath, offering, like today's Pitru Paksh, so he would offer oblations to ancestors every day. I saw that. He would do charity every day. That would amaze me, actually. Sometimes he would do charity on what do you call it? Yeah, on loan, actually. On debt. Sorry. On loan. He would tell me, I know I tell my mother, is he? But what I learned, as I said, is that despite such, so Arjuna is in the same situation. His senses are drying up. Everything seems to be dark, black. He comes to Krishna, and that's where Krishna then accepts him. In next few verses, Arjuna continues this. That's what's happening to me. Let's read in verse number 9, and then we're going to pick up from there. Somebody would like to read the verse also? It's fine. Sanjaya Uvacha. You got the verse? Verse number 9, right? Sanjaya Uvacha. Evam Utta Rishikesham. Gudakesha Parantapaha. Nayotsya iti Govindam. Babua. Anybody would like to read?
Sanjay said, having spoken thus, Arjun, chastiser of enemies, told Krishna, Govinda, I shall not fight, and fell silent.
So one thing we are looking at here is that Arjuna did surrender, though highly qualified. Sometimes our egos come into picture that how can I surrender? I am so highly learned, I have done so many things, I have achieved so many things, but no. So, because when he saw a bona fide guru in the form of Krishna, he duly surrendered. Now, after that, Sanjaya, he gives certain more, as he said, my senses are drying up, and then he said, and then now Sanjaya takes over and he tells to Dhritarashtra what he said, I will keep my weapons, I will not fight, and he fell silent. Now here's a beautiful point. Now the intrinsic or what is happening, what is Dhritarashtra thinking is given in this particular verse. And Prabhupada explains it in the purport. I want someone to read the purport. Somebody from here? You can read? Yeah, 2.9, the purport. Dhritarashtra is there?
Dhritarashtra must have been very
Loud.
Dhritarashtra must have been very clear to understand that Arjuna was not going to fight and was instead leaving the battlefield for the next Krishna. But Sanjay disappointed him again in believing that Arjuna was competent to kill his enemies. Although Arjuna was, for the time being, overwhelmed with false grief due to family affection, he surrendered unto Krishna, the supreme spiritual master, as a disciple. This indicated that he would soon be free from false lamentation, resulting from family affection, and would be enlightened with perfect knowledge of self-realization of Krishna and Krishna's consciousness, and would then surely fight. Thus, Dhritarashtra's joy would be frustrated, since Arjuna would be enlightened by Krishna and would fight to them. Yes.
It's a very beautiful verse, actually. You see how the nature of this material world is being described here. Now, when Arjuna the fight was about to begin, Dhritarashtra, you remember the first verse? He had doubts, right? We talked about those. What will happen? Sanjaya, Kim Akurod Sanjaya, kya chal raha hai? And Sanjay is also saying, are you stupid? It's a battlefield. They're gonna fight, right? But he had these doubts because this is Dharma Kshetre. What will happen? The people who are on the side of Dharma might win. But now here, what is happening? Dhritarashtra is feeling little happy. Oh, the main fighter he ja raha hai. Retired. Very nice. There's something like, we have some big fight and the general itself. Because Arjuna was the most powerful person from the army of Yudhishthira. So this is material world for you. The moment you're down, you don't have enemies, you'll realize that. For example, God forbid, you lose your opulence a little bit and all. Actually, I can honestly say that your enemies will reduce. And the moment you have material opulence, what happens? Have you seen? What happens? All of you have this realization, right? And the same relatives treat you a little differently. That's what is happening with Dhritarashtra. He's a relative. As soon as Arjuna is standing up and I'm fighting, then he becomes morose. As soon as Arjuna says, I will not fight at all, he becomes little happy. Oh, very nice. Beta, don't fight. Because it's good for me. Hmm? That's material world for you. That's what happens. Hmm? So that's why I say the true friend is always who is always there for you, right? Especially during the troubled times. Hmm? Because when it's success is many fathers, many relatives. Failure as well. Hmm? So this is the kind of material world, but actually Sanjaya uses these words, Rishi Keshu, the owner of the senses. One who has complete control over senses is called Rishi Kesh. Kesha means senses. And one who has control over senses means Rishi Kesh. That's Krishna. That's why he specifically uses this word Rishi Kesha, because he wants to actually tell indirectly to the Drashta, oh stupid, your happiness, I can sense you're being happy, but now the master of the senses is taking control. Because the guru will now enlighten the disciple. That's why it's Govinda. Govinda. Go again means senses. One who brings pleasure to the cows. Go means also cows. That's why Krishna is called as Govinda. Go also means senses. One who gives pleasure to the senses is known as Krishna. Yes. So everything your pleasure you're getting in this world, like the mother is getting by expressing her love for the child, is actually coming from Krishna. Right? Is actually coming from Krishna. So he uses these words particularly. Rishi Kesha, Govinda he uses. And to tell the Dhritarashtra that this is short-lived. This envy of yours which you're expressing by happiness is nothing but an expression of envy towards Pandavas. That's why this material world is like called as Paradukha Sukhi. Paradukha Sukhi. That people become happy by somebody's sorrow, by somebody's grief. But the devotee of Krishna is like Paradukha Dukhi. He becomes very unhappy. Why these people are suffering? So he wants to go out. So Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of International Society for Krishna Consciousness, at the age of 69, with 40 rupees, that time dollar was 7 rupees, which is equal to $7 in his pocket, and some books. He didn't even have money to take a flight. He didn't even have money to go on a cruise ship or something. He went on a cargo ship. Cargo ship. I'm honestly telling that we cannot imagine what is cargo ship. You need to actually go to a port and then see what it is. I've seen what it is. You've seen that, right? It's unlivable.
I have worked 27 years on those ships.
Ships. There we go. So it's very difficult. For an old man, even more difficult who has never traveled, never seen sea. For 2 months, Prabhupada was on that ship. It's called a seasickness. Some of my friends who work on offshore industry, like, you've seen this platform in the middle of the sea? My friend said, there's a helicopter standby. Because any day somebody may lose his mind. And they jump. Sometimes they jump. One day he was a devotee. So they found him, he's missing in the sleeping quarters or something like that. And there was a siren. He said the siren came and the people were sort of looking. He said somebody's on the top. So he was on the platform, top of the platform, chanting japa. He was walking. He said all helicopter lights were on him. He said, what are you doing? He said, I'm chanting. He said, even I felt, then he was of course given a warning or something that you cannot climb. But he said, it's frustrating to see because all you can see is water. Nothing else. It's called a seasickness. So Prabhupada had 2 heart attacks. At the age of 70, he had 2 heart attacks on the ship itself. No doctor. After that, he established this International Society of Krishna Consciousness today, which has 1,000 centers globally. I was in Brussels. Actually, I have come here. I just reached at 1 o'clock after 42 hours of non-stop travel. I left Spain on Friday morning, Then I went to Vienna, I had a meeting there, finished meeting, went to Helsinki, had a meeting there, then came to Thailand, I had one meeting there, then I reached here. But in between, I went to Brussels, and I went to a place called Radhadesh. Oh my God. That whole town is full of devotees. And not Indian body, they are foreign bodies. And I was shocked how they celebrated Radha Ashtami. They were chanting till midnight. And they've been doing it for last 30, 40 years. I met a lady, she has cancer since last 10 years. But so I thought maybe, she had shaven up. So I went, I thought maybe I can just, cheer up and just say some nice words. When I left after 1 hour, I was feeling more positive. Seriously. It was amazing. That woman, I felt like just touching her feet and, putting the dust on my head. So that is a miracle this old man did. So when you have Krishna on your side, nothing is impossible if you take shelter of Krishna. So Prabhupada wanted that each one of us, that is Paradukha Dukhi. He was sitting in Vrindavan. Why would he leave Vrindavan, right? Most of the people, devotees, when they grow old, they go to Vrindavan to retire. I will die here now. Because if somebody dies in Vrindavan, he goes directly back to Krishna, the Krishna Loka. He never takes birth again. That's guaranteed. But Prabhupada at the age of 70 leaves and goes to America. Those people who don't even know about God, forget Krishna. You tell them Krishna is a blue boy, Krishna, he's God. Playing flute, oh, is it? They don't know even about God. So he goes there with these hippies, those who are eating cow meat. Prabhupada stood in between there, talked about Krishna, and they accepted. And they gradually became purified. They gave up meat eating, they gave up sinful activities, they gave up intoxication. It's unbelievable. And they became, most of them now I see leaving bodies like facing death. As I said, matching eye to eye. That's a proof that by taking shelter of Krishna, this process is not some ordinary process. This process is to overcome death, to have victory over death. It's unbelievable what it can. And that's what we're going to learn next time. Victory over death. Because Krishna, now from verse number 11 to 30th, in this same chapter, Krishna will start smashing the whole ideas or the arguments Arjuna has been placing so far. This is a very, very important chapter. That's why he said, contents of the Gita summarized. That's the name of the chapter. So now the spiritual signs will be revealed to Krishna, revealed to Arjuna by Krishna. So stay tuned, same time, same place. Hare Krishna. Are there any comments or questions?